Here for President Trump this morning, his spokesperson, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Sarah, thanks for joining us this morning. I want to clarify some things on the timeline right here. In the hours after Mr. Comey was fired, you, Sean Spicer, Kellyanne Conway, all said that the Deputy Attorney General wrote this memo on his own with no involvement from the President or the White House. That wasn't true, was it?
Well, George, I think you're putting things a little out of context here. The information in the letter was something that he came to on his own. On Monday, they were at the White House for other meetings. The president asked them about their opinions on Comey. They told them, he asked for them to put that in writing, the conversation that they had orally there at the White House on Monday, asked them to put that in writing. They did that on Tuesday, but it wasn't directed, or the words that were written weren't at the direction necessarily of the president. Those were their own thoughts.
Right, those were the
ideas.
words. But hold on a second, because you said I was taking things out of context. I don't think I was doing that at all. On Tuesday night,
Sean, like we weren't being truthful.
Sean Spicer.
I just want to be clear.
I need to clear this up. Sean Spicer said there was no involvement by the White House. It was all him, Mr. Rosenstein. You said absolutely this was something Rosenstein did on his own. Kellyanne Conway said the firing had everything to do with Rosenstein. And then the vice president even said Rosenstein came to work, sat down, and made the recommendation. He brought the recommendation to the president. But as your own timeline now states, the president was inclined to fire Mr. Comey after the hearings last week. He came to the White House on Monday morning. He asked to see Mr. Rosenstein, and he directed him to write this memo, didn't he?
He did not direct him to write the context of the memo. He asked him to put the comments that he had already made directly to the president in writing. Again, I think that you're trying to beat up the process, but the point here is that the findings in the letter, in the recommendation, were original thoughts by Mr. Rosenstein. But the important component of this is that the Deputy Attorney General, along with many others, felt like Director Comey was not the person that should be running the FBI at this point.
But the president had already made that determination. And is it true, in fact, as the Washington Post is reporting and John Carl said earlier, that the Deputy Attorney General threatened to resign if the White House failed to make that point, that this was a decision that began with the president, not with Mr. Rosenstein?
I'm not aware of his threatening to resign. That's a question I'd have to refer you to the Department of Justice. But what I am clear on, yes, the president very much had been thinking about letting Director Comey go since November 9th.
Why did the president come to the office on Monday inclined to fire James Comey? What was it about his testimony last week that upset the president? Was it the fact that Mr. Comey said he was mildly nauseous at the thought that he might have influenced the election?
Look, I think it was, again, I think this process started in November, probably actually going back even to July to October, that just the constant part of the Director Comey being the public face, out on TV, constantly the back and forth. But Wednesday's testimony certainly didn't help, and I think was the final piece that put the president in a place where he felt like Director Comey was no longer the person that should be leading the FBI.
But back during the campaign, the president was upset that James Comey wasn't recommending that Hillary Clinton go to jail.
Look, during the campaign, that you're a candidate. It's very different than being the president of the United States. Particularly, I think one of the biggest things that we saw on Wednesday was the director of the FBI going around the chain of command. This was one of the first times that he directly came out and explicitly said that he had gone around the chain of command within the Department of Justice. That's basically taking a stick of dynamite and throwing it into the Department of Justice, something you simply cannot do. And one of the things that was reflected in the Deputy Attorney General's letter that he put forth to the president on Tuesday.
That had actually been reported several times before, and the difference now, is, of course, is that James Comey is leading the investigation into Russia. I do want to get into that because the president's letter says, I greatly appreciate you informing me, Mr. Comey, on 3 separate occasions that I am not under investigation. Sources close to Comey say that's not true, and it would likely violate Justice Department and FBI procedures. Are you sure that what the president wrote is true?
I've heard that directly from him, that information was relayed directly to him from Director Comey.
What were those occasions, and how did Mr. Comey provide that assurance?
I'm not going to get into the details of those conversations that the president had with the director.
But you're confident that Mr. Comey did provide those assurances, even though sources close to him say it's not true?
I think getting it directly from the source is a lot better than sources closest to. So, yes, sir.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much, George.